As Michael Jackson plays in the background. Well, not actually Michael Jackson, but it's one of his songs. We are at the Media Center in San Francisco, California for Super Bowl 50. Mark Kiszla, Woody Paige with you on DPTV and the Sports Show as presented by the Denver Post and John Elway's Steakhouse. Elway's Steakhouse in Cherry Creek. How are you? I haven't seen you. You've been busy. Mark Kiszla has been traveling here in fro.
Yes, I have. And so I'm looking around the media center, and it is a distinctly different feel than when the Broncos last appeared in the Super Bowl in New York. This is got a more California groove as well. It should. It's a little wide open, a little noisier, and I like it better, to tell you the truth.
Oh, absolutely. When we were in New York and did the show from there, we were stuffed into a ballroom in a Hilton Hotel downtown. This is in the Moscone Center, and the last time I was in here was for a Democratic National Convention.
There you go.
That very much involved Gary Hart and a number of other Democrats who were trying to be, and this was a great atmosphere for a Democratic convention because San Francisco is alive, and that it was very much at that time the Democratic candidates were fighting over all of the groups from San Francisco, from Jefferson Airplane or Starship or whatever they were called at that time, to anybody that was well known, because the promoter out here was a big fan of the Democratic Party. Famous Bill, the famous commercial. It's kind of like Barry Fay in Denver, was a West Coast guy. And
his name is Bill, and we'll come up with the last name.
Anyway, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, and we've gotten full tilt into it with both teams, Carolina and the Denver Broncos. Mark will be giving you comparisons and talk about the two of them, but they arrived in totally different attire.
Yeah, Peyton Manning arrived looking like a banker, and Cam Newton arrived looking like he would perform the Late Show in Vegas.
That sort of set the tone, I thought, for blue suit, orange tie.
Right.
Looked like Pat Bowlen when he would go to events. I think it may have been in honor of Pat Bowlen because he was wearing a blue suit and orange tie. And Cam Newton was in your brother or son's pajamas. And
I didn't think they were more than pajamas now.
Well, it was, something you'd
but
see in the zoo.
It did look like he could be opening for Bruno Mars, perhaps.
Yep. Why don't you give us the big stuff, what we'll be talking about today, and let me give you, while he's getting ready for that we'll do an hour show like we do from the Denver Post studios that we've moved to San Francisco. We'll take a short break. We'll come back. We'll have guests from the world of sports and entertainment, and if you were with us in the last couple of years, it could be anybody from Kevin Costner to Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe to, we had at one point last year 6 or 7 former Green Bay Packers who are in the Hall of Fame. So a lot going on. I've already talked to a bunch of Hall of Famers. Andre Reed, for instance. Right over there is Boomer Esiason, who will join us during the course of the week. Bill Romanowski, who won 3 Super Bowls, I think. 2 with the Broncos and 1 with the 49ers here. Maybe 4. He had a great career. But what are we talking about as we debate and argue and discuss in this first hour?
The big stuff is Peyton Manning's in the moment, or is he? You spoke of Cam Newton's attire, and it might lead to this question. Can Cam take this game seriously? And you'll have to fill me on the Pro Bowl or Pro Bust.
Let's start with that. We'll get to it a bit later, but I was sitting, and I won't call him out, but I was sitting in the Hilton Hotel last night at the bar, and the game was on over the bar, and this NFL executive was talking to me. He was not watching the game. So does that answer your question to begin with? Let's start out with Peyton's in the moment. He said in an interview during the Pro Bowl last night with another boomer from ESPN that he is, he was asked, of course, as he will be all week, is this your last rodeo? Mark Kiszla's quote. And he said, I'm living in the moment. I'm in the moment. Do you think that's true?
I think it's true because I think his mind is made up. I think he has decided to retire after this game, and so this is his moment. This is his final moment. This is the only moment he has to live for. And if I had one more day to ski, if you had one more round of golf to play, I hope that whether it's you or me or Peyton Manning, if you had one more day to do what you truly love athletically, that you think of nothing but that round of golf or that 4 quarters of football or those rides up the mountain.
But while you were doing that, you as a skier and me as a golfer, that as I'm teeing up, I'm thinking, this is my last round of golf. I want to enjoy. I'll look at the vistas, and I'll look at the mountains, and I'll examine a putt, and I'll gear up a little harder to make this a good finish. Wouldn't you, if you're coming down a black slope, that you'd say, I want to enjoy every turn. I want to experience maybe a couple of moguls I haven't experienced before. I mean, so wouldn't you kind of, as you live in the moment, also live in the future of this is going to be my last time to enjoy this?
I think you can only really enjoy it if you get lost in the moment. If you're contemplating what comes after, then you will not have as much fun and you will not be as effective as you could be. If you're standing there on the tee box, Woody Paige, and you're thinking about what's for dinner, I'm not trusting that you're going to knock that drive 200 yards over the water carry.
Probably not anyway.
Okay, but I was trying to be nice.
I was trying to think of whatever I might be thinking about at that point. You will be going tonight to media night.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think he's going to be asked, how many times will he be asked the 2 questions?
The question number 1 is this your last game? Is this your last rodeo? And question number 2 is,
did you take HGH?
I think, is this your last rodeo will be asked more often. I think he can effectively shoot down, did you take HGH in one effort? And either he will, if he's asked more than one time about HGH, he'll say, I've said everything I'm going to, I've said my piece. It was garbage. I reviewed the report as garbage. I reviewed it. I viewed it that way at the time. I view it that way now. I've got nothing else to say about that. Last rodeo will be asked 8 different ways by 8 different people.
And get the same general answer.
I'm in the moment. I'm living in the moment.
This segment and this hour brought to you by John Elway's Steakhouse in Cherry Creek, and one of my all-time favorite places for a number of different reasons, and we'll be talking about it during the course of the week. Elway's Steakhouse is genuinely one of Denver's best, if not best, steakhouses. But I will say this, their seafood, their side dishes, their salads, they're unique dishes. I mean, for instance, my friend Tim Schmidt, who's co-owner with John Elway and others, has put together a cheeseburger. And you go, I'm going to a steakhouse and have a cheeseburger? Trust me, that is an incredible cheeseburger. The other thing I want to bring up today in this spot is it's a great place to go and enjoy the evening and enjoy with your friends. You can either eat in an intimate atmosphere back in the restaurant area, or you can go out in the patio area that's enclosed, or you can eat in the bar and you can enjoy the time with your friends. John Elway's Steakhouse in Cherry Creek, right next to the mall, University and First. Elway's Steakhouse, recognized nationally as one of the greatest steakhouses in the country. Let me also talk to you while we're here, and we're enjoying the splash, and we're going to get right to that in a moment. Let me talk to you about Citywide Banks, Colorado-owned, locally focused, supporting 150 charities. But you don't go to a bank even though you know that they're supporting community charities. You go because you want advice on your small or big business. And I think with 12 locations in Denver and Boulder, Citywide Banks is your place to go. Be a member of the community with Citywide Banks. We bank there. You can bank there.
I am Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
At Citywide Banks,
We put you first by exceeding your service expectations every day.
Every day.
So, making a splash in San Francisco, I brought it up. Who will make the bigger splash in San Francisco, the Broncos or the Panthers? And as I said, media night is tonight. It was media day. Do you think there will be more controversy, more interesting quotes, more good stories coming out of the Broncos camp or the Panthers camp?
I think Cam Newton defines the personality of the Panthers, just as Peyton Manning defines the personality of the Broncos. And just as we said, they showed up in very different attire. I think that makes it more likely that the Panthers make the bigger splash. However, here's the Broncos' opportunity. It's the defense that has had much more influence, as Peyton himself admits. This Broncos defense is the reason the Denver team is here, has made it this far. And I would really like to see a dance-off between Von Miller and Cam Newton. And I think Von is the better dancer. I'm not sure he's the better football player, but he's a better dancer. So if it was left up to the personalities of Von Miller and Cam Newton, that might be pretty close.
That's an angle I hadn't thought about, the dance-off, Dancing with the Stars.
There you go.
Literally. I have listened in today. I went up to the CBS press conference. I've been on 3 or 4 talk shows as a guest today. And here's what I've gotten right away from observers that have nothing to do with the Broncos or whatever. That Phil Simms is saying that if the Broncos win this game, their defense will be remembered as one of the top 3 or 4 in the history of the NFL. And I thought, well, that's interesting coming from Phil Simms. A lot of people in Denver don't like Phil Simms, think he's anti-Broncos, but every city he goes to, they think he's
anti-that city. That's the curse of being a national broadcaster.
He said, I won't predict the game. I don't do that. But he said, I think first team to 24 wins the game. That'll be the only team to 24. So I got that. It's on a Dallas station. And they were talking about Cam Newton and his takeover of the NFL as the face of the network. I mean, of the league. And I thought, well, that's really true. He is now, because they went 15-1 and because of his personality and what he says and everything. So to me, angles for the game are Peyton Manning's last game. And people ask me about that. I've been asked by Rich Eisen show and Dallas and 3 or 4 other stations, and they go, will he go walk away? So I think that's going to be the thing. Will he go out like John Elway? Will he win? Will he be a loser of 3 out of 4 Super Bowls? Cam Newton. Can Cam Newton really become bigger than Tom Brady, bigger than Aaron Rodgers, bigger than anybody else in the league? And third, as was pointed out, I think by Phil Simms, aptly, was you've got 2 great defenses. He said, which made sense, he said there is not a better secondary in the NFL. He said it's a good linebacking core. 2 best outside rushers tandem in the league. He said on the other side, if you watch the Carolina Panthers defense get off a bus, you'll go, that is a big, big defensive unit. So he said you've got the most talented defensive unit, and you've got a strong, able, physical
athletic
defense. And so I think that's going to win the day. Maybe not win the game, but that will win the day, that when people hang around these 2 teams, they'll see Ward and his interesting quotes, Talib, Chris Harris talking all the time, that Von Miller and his stories, DeMarcus Ware as the veteran who's playing in his first Super Bowl, that those will be the next big stories after Peyton Manning. And on the other side, that Cam Newton's going to be the story, but then people are going to look at that defense and go, wow, now that is a much bigger, tougher, even more physical defense than the Broncos. We are at the Super Bowl in the Moscone Convention Center in San Francisco downtown, and I will tell you, it's sort of like being in the Middle East in terms of protection and security and things of that sort. And we're brought to you, as I said, this hour by Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. And if you're looking for advice, consultation, and issues to problems, the place to go, the #1 men's clinic in Colorado, that would be Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. And you go to the website, Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, and they can give you tests, including PSA testing for prostate cancer, that will help you not only with your sexual health, but your general health. And I heard one of their commercials on the radio that was taped, and a lady said that after her husband made one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, she baked a cake and took it to the health people that will get you through your issues, health-wise and sexual-wise, at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic.
Is a lack of intimacy at home starting to affect your performance on the course? There are many factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol that may be contributing to your erectile dysfunction. Get back in the game with one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, offering same-day solutions for all erectile dysfunction and premature issues. And you get to try the medications containing FDA ingredients right in their office. Let the providers at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic help you get your confidence back. And be sure to ask about the $99 limited time special. Call today.
Can you get, are you guys able to get what's going on in the room? And because Mark was making a point at the outset that 2 years ago when we did this in New York, it was a very, very crammed in area. Last year at Scottsdale, it didn't have the, particularly on Monday, it didn't have the verve and the excitement.
It didn't have the electricity
that's developing in San Francisco.
Well, you know, it's a big event, and I love the Olympics, and this is on Olympic scale. This is the NFL's version of the Olympics, and it's a week-long event. And my point is that the event takes on the personality of the city, and the city either fully embraces it or it does not. So when we were in New York,
cold city.
Yeah, but you tell me if you agree with this or not. I think the vast majority of New Yorkers treated the Super Bowl like it was just another one of the parades that happen every other day in New York City. It's like, oh, well, the Super Bowl's here. What's for lunch? But it's San Francisco. My initial impression is like, there's a lot of people. I was walking here at 9 in the morning, and there was a family, and they were all decked out in their Niners replica jerseys. And they were like, when does the NFL experience open? And they were checking their watches. And so I think my initial reaction is that it's not going to be California cool, that it's going to be cool for Californians to embrace the Super Bowl, especially maybe that's because it's Super Bowl 50.
New York, you're absolutely right. Between the cold weather and that it was spread out in New Jersey and New York, and New Yorkers deal with stuff opening in the United Nations and political conventions, and you're absolutely right about the parade. The 3 years or so that I lived there, I was amazed. They'd put up the aluminum barricades, and it would be Puerto Rican Day.
Right. It would be whatever. They'll have a parade for anything in New York City.
Right afterward, they'd clean up the garbage, and they'd take down the barricades. And then on Thursday, they put the barricades back up, and they go, what is this? I would talk to the cops, and they go, well, it's National South America Sunday.
Yeah.
I've never seen a place that had so many parades, but more importantly, they should have just made the barricades permanent because they were taking them down, putting them up, taking them down, and I'm not lying about that. And when they didn't have a parade, they had a street fair down the middle of 8th Avenue. So then the last year, because of the laid-back kind of Arizona, it's elderly, retired people, it's young people on the go, it was in Scottsdale, it was in Phoenix, it just didn't have that feel either because they've had it a lot. San Francisco, the last time that San Francisco experienced the Super Bowl, I was there, it was at Stanford Stadium, and we're going back 30 years.
Wow.
And so think about it. It hasn't been here. They didn't have this stadium until this year. This was part of the deal. And so I think because it's not been here in a major metropolitan area for the 30 years that the people said, oh, we're going to do this right. And this is a city that feels like it's got to be aware of security. So there is an atmosphere around the place outside that makes it feel very secure, but there's an NFL experience and there's a super city. And we'll talk more about that after I tell you about Siltahar Motors. And we're happy to have Siltahar. Their new small SUV, when I say small SUV, you know that's big, the 2016 MKC, this is the Lincoln 2016 MKC, has both room for your stuff and great gas mileage. Think about the combination there. The new 2016 MKX crossover has amazing styling and cutting-edge technology. And they're all available at Siltahar Lincoln in Broomfield, where you'll find friendly people who can really help you out from your first car to your dream car. Pro Bowl. You didn't watch a moment of it.
I did not. I skied yesterday, and then I flew during the Pro Bowl. And here's what strikes me about the Pro Bowl. Well,
47 players declined to play.
And I went to the Pro Bowl 2 years ago. No, take that back, 3 years ago. The year the Broncos got beat in the first round by the Ravens. And we expected the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl. They did not. I went to the Pro Bowl, and that was the year. That was the year that they had the emphasis, and to all the players, listen. If you want to keep the Pro Bowl, if you want to keep going to Hawaii, let's make it competitive. And Peyton Manning was among the people, among the veteran players that got up in front of his fellow All-Stars and said, hey, you know what? The tradition of this game means something to me, and it should mean something to you, and we need to put on a good show. And the NFC beat the AFC. And I walked off the field with Peyton Manning, and till this day, I still can't believe it. He was ticked off because his side lost the game. But now, nobody cares. Now it's team Michael Irvin versus, I don't know.
Jerry Rice, I think.
Yeah, team, I don't know.
Mike McCarthy called in sick. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
The head coach of the NFC called in sick, and his assistant coach for the Packers took over. 47 players declined to play. Then you had the players that will be in this game. That's another 5 or 6 players. Here's what I thought last night, and I'm going to run this by you. And I watched it briefly. Take the helmets off.
And make it touch?
People don't like...
Or make it wrestling?
No, make it a regular game without helmets. There won't be any head diving.
Head butting or leading with the helmet.
Spearing when you don't have a helmet on. They're not going to be fighting when you got no face guard. People in other sports, and they don't like the helmet. I mean, they don't like the helmets and the face guards in hockey. That was one of the aspects of hockey people like. They could see their heroes. In basketball, you can see your heroes.
Okay, gotcha.
In baseball, you can generally see your heroes. In football, they're helmeted gladiators. So if you're going to play it, it's at this speed, and they're not really going after each other. It was one sack, and Michael Bennett got MVP for one sack last night. One tackle, one sack. Take the helmets off and play at this speed, just half speed. Here's one, though. This is what I like. You're old enough to remember when the NFL champions played the college all-star team.
Yes, I do.
Why don't you pick a different team every year of all-stars? Futures. How about futures? You young players, Shane Rays of the world, Michael Schofield. Pick a futures team like they do in the NBA and have them play the college all-stars.
I like that idea. Do you think veteran players would be up for taking on the college all-stars.
They might get into it, though, if you did. But here's the other aspect.
No, because if they did, I think that's your answer. So it's a showcase for everybody coming into the draft and everybody who's going to be a star in the league next season. Now, you'd have to adjust your Senior Bowl schedule or whatever it is, and you'd have to convince the agents of players yet to be drafted that the risk of injury isn't great. But that would be a competitive game, and that would get the juices of everybody flowing to the extent that at least guys would care about who wins and loses the game, because the veterans wouldn't want to get beat by a bunch of rookies. That's awesome.
The star. There's a guy that actually, while he's putting on his microphone, there's a guy that I think people believe he's actually the home analyst for the Denver Broncos, because he and Jim Nantz do more Broncos games than any other games. I think during the case we're going to fill up figure out which one we're on the run. I just saw Phil upstairs. I went up to listen to him talk. He's going to turn you up in a second here.
We're going the wrong way.
There we go. You did it.
That's right. My technical expertise knows no limits.
I think I just walked in front of the cameras. I didn't know the cameras.
Television.
Thanks for making us a happy train wreck.
Nice to see you.
Well, I was waiting, and you were holding court up there, and I was listening to you, and I just told, not even knowing you were walking by, I was telling Mark, I said, I was listening to you, and I thought you make great sense for a guy that's objective.
That has no sense.
No, you're very objective.
Something like
that.
But
you also know that in Denver and every other city you go to, you're like me. Everybody thinks you're against the home team or
I
against
don't.
Team.
I do get that, and I don't understand it. I really don't.
Because you are objective. But getting to that, the point you made up there.
Which one?
That's what I'm going to get to. You said you don't predict games, but you thought if somebody got to 24 points.
Yes. Well, I was on the nose when I talked about the New England game, and they asked me, one of the first things I said, first one to 20 is going to win. That's just kind of how I viewed it. And, of course, there's many variables that goes into every football game, but I just can't see this being 35-34. It's just too many good players on the defensive side by both teams. And now, turnovers, all that, but just an offense just going out there dominating, going up and down the field and scoring points. No, I don't. Just like I said, too many dynamic impact players for both sides.
I thought you made a great point, and I won't get ahead of it on this one, but in comparing the two defenses, you talked about the Broncos defense, and then you talked about the Panthers defense getting off a bus. So to me, that was a great observation about the differences in the two defenses that are 1 and 2 in the NFL, basically.
You read writers, you're a writer, you do all that, you can read something, you kind of get a good feel for it. One thing I've learned through the NFL, I played under Bill Parcells, I've loved it, I always thought I was going to coach, and I think I'm a part general manager. We all do, Mm-hmm. And one thing that always has held true in my life, when a team gets off the bus, if they look the part, they usually are the part. This is not high school football. So when the Panthers get off the bus, one of their people asked me, what do you think of our football team? I said, man, you're one of the top 3 getting off the bus. And I explained it to him. He goes, never thought of it that way. But it reminds me of the Super Bowl down in New Orleans. Do you remember that San Francisco 49er team?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Did they have the look? I mean, everybody in the team was the prototype. Nobody was out of shape. No fat guys. And hey, look, physically, they were the more talented team that day. They just couldn't make the plays when it counted.
Okay, I thought 2 years ago that Seattle, going into the week, I'm from Colorado, and I'm trying to concoct scenarios where the Broncos are going to beat the Seahawks. But by the end of the week, Seattle the way they looked getting off the bus and the way they acted, I was like, Denver's in big, big trouble here.
I've created a new term, getting off the bus. I used to say it to Chris Collinsworth. I go, Chris, listen, this is a go league. It's about go muscles, not show muscles.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you need some things from the waist down. You got to have legs to be a runner and a player in the NFL. Chris Collinsworth, and we would laugh about it. And you were right. I was on the field that day.
Right.
And I watched both teams. Being on the field is a different look.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember turning and looking at Seattle going, oh, my gosh. And then I turned to Denver and said, wow, this is different. And to John Elway's credit, which I did an interview with him yesterday. It's going to come on Sunday. It's going to be great.
Right.
I'm really excited about it. He knew he had to change the team. He did it. It's amazing. Yeah, that's just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Now they are tough as can be. Tough physically, tough mentally, and it shows, and that's why they're here.
Oh, and that's the second thing I wanted to ask you. You talked about how a team looks physically getting off the bus. How important is that mental edge or that attitude during Super Bowl week where, we try to make it larger in life? Does that mental edge mean a lot in this week? Or
Look,
no?
When you're a player, you're in such a cocoon, and all you do is practice and do what you do.
Okay.
So that all this stuff on the outside, do you think they realize? I just saw this. There's some Radio Row here going on. It's unbelievable.
But they don't care.
They don't care. And here's the big thing: you have two teams that are physically, they are tough because they run the football, their style, what they do, and the coaches. Gary Kubiak, I asked John Elway, I said, are you sure he was a quarterback? Because his demeanor and the way it comes across, the way his team is, he coaches. You'd think he was the ex-linebacker coaching, being the head coach in the NFL. So it's pretty interesting, and they're battle-tested. The Denver Broncos, they've played in a lot of close games, and what that does for you, you don't panic, you don't get nervous, you just keep on plowing ahead. That's a big deal because that's what this game could be about.
Let me take you back for a moment. At halftime, you're losing to the Broncos.
Right.
What happened as a player then? You're playing for Bill Parcells, one
Right.
of the greatest of all time. What changed the mood of that game for you as a quarterback? You had I hate that word. You had one of the 2 or 3 best halves in the history of a Super Bowl in the second half. You're smiling about it.
I'm laughing. Well, yeah.
You just called him half grade.
No, wait, no, this is good. Because John Elway goes to me yesterday, how many passes did you miss in that second half? John, none.
What?
None.
Yeah.
But
Glad
it's good.
that John
what
mentioned
do you think?
that.
I mean, do you have a feeling for what happened at halftime that made that a blowout?
Nothing. It was just they missed their opportunity. Denver had some momentum, and they had us reeling a little bit. They were moving the ball in our defense, but they missed a field goal. They missed opportunities. And think about that game. It's so long ago. I just thought about it when you asked me. We get the ball in the second half. We're at midfield. It's 4th and 2 feet, and we go for it. We run the fake. Jeff Rutledge comes out, and we go. We had like 19 plays off of this fake punt. Nobody covered the center. We got a quarterback sneak. We ran down. We finished the drive off and scored, and that's what turned the game around. That was coaching. Sean Payton, what did he do in his Super Bowl? The onside kick.
Yep.
He knew he had to do something to change the momentum. How about Nick Saban in the national championship game?
Oh, my goodness.
So that's what, we don't give coaches the credit they deserve in football. But when you sense something and you feel it and you got to take that chance to turn the game around, that's when you do it. And it goes both ways. You take that chance. A lot of them fail, and then you have to live with it. But these coaches, those instances I brought up, all worked and were big reasons why their team won.
I mean, I'm a big believer that big moments call for bold moves. And if you have the nerve to do it, then you have to live with it.
If we were sitting at the bar and having just a cold glass of ice water or something, I could tell you some great stories that coaches say about nerve in games. Phil? Yes, coach. And they give me the phrase.
Yeah.
And I go, you're right. When you play in a big game, you can't be afraid.
Yeah.
You got to go win the game. You can't try not to lose it. So that is easy to say, Woody, hard to do.
Right.
Can you just keep going after it? And that's what.
Okay, did you think, second guesser here, I guess that's my job. Do you think the Broncos slowed down and started playing the clock in the AFC Championship game in the second half? Or do you think they kept on pushing? They survived.
Yes.
But
well, the answer is if they didn't try to slow it down and watch the clock, then they were crazy.
Okay.
You should be. That's what you do. That's managing it, trying to figure out a way to get. Hey, they're going to slow. That's what he wants to do anyway.
Right.
I don't like talking about the game too much because I like to keep things fresh in my mind.
Right.
But Gary Kubiak and I think he's kind of like his career could be different this Sunday. I haven't talked to him about it, but his career tells me he's an aggressive coach early. So I remember all of his games in Houston, everything they did. They come out. He shows you some new things early to kind of get you reeling, and then they settle into what he really wants to do, and he wants to physically try to dominate the game.
Good. Hey, we appreciate it. I know you were upstairs talking. It was fascinating. I was standing there with my friends here and listening to you, and I'm looking forward to
me too.
You and a good friend of mine, and you do a great job not crowding the booth. You guys, what I like, you were talking about it, you keep it in the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't make it bigger than life.
Well,
is that a fair assessment?
Just try to talk about, I always tell people there's a couple of mechanics in the game. I try to tell people what to look for, what I think is going to be the determining factor, good or bad. In other words, set the bar, and wherever it falls, we'll see. If Peyton Manning's got to play great, well, did he or didn't he? Mm-hmm. Things like that. And then,
what do you think he's forget?
Well, don't forget that. But the other thing is,
do you think he is going to have a very good game?
Well, I don't want to answer that yet, Woody. I have a good feel for it, but I'm going to wait, But I think the other thing is there's mechanics to broadcasting, and I have a head coach too in broadcasting. And you know what? That head coach has got a lot of power. But you know what they want when you're winning is one thing. When the other team is behind, they want to know how you. Oh, what was that?
Whoa.
How does a team catch up? That's what they want to know. So in other words, if Denver falls behind in the game, we're going to talk about what Denver has to do to get back in it.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I'm not going to – you don't do it the other way. What does TV want? What do we want?
Drama, conflict,
we want
excitement.
Overtime. There we go.
We want as many commercial opportunities as possible.
But we want the game to be close.
It's good.
Yeah, so that's –
I always had people say, what do you pull for? I said, well, at golf tournaments, I pull for playoffs.
There you go.
I like that. I like overtimes. I had picked that game against New England. You picked it right. He knows this. I picked it to go into overtime.
Well, you were
at 2020.
Oh my gosh, would that have been unbelievable?
Yeah.
He would have been insufferable if that happened.
If this game,
he's insufferable anyway.
Well, I hear you. We all are. But if Super Bowl 50 goes into overtime, there will be executives at CBS that I don't know. They might hurt themselves. They'll be doing cartwheels and rolling.
That's right.
Because it would be the greatest thing that could happen.
People are waving at you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the week.
Thank you. What do you too?
Great suit.
I appreciate you letting me come on for a couple minutes.
No,
we'll
look forward to you and Jim. You do an incredible job.
All right, thank you.
And we can't wait, except we probably won't hear you for a moment because we'll be in the press box. Someone said to me that the other day, I said, I love having a bye week or something where I can actually watch games.
Once again. Too, the other thing is I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan. I watch all football when I'm not working. I watch everything on TV. I do. But I think I just can't wait to see what happens. I'm nosy. Aren't you nosy?
Yeah.
Aren't you just I want to know what – and it's only Monday, so we all got to calm down here. We got to calm. It's a long
Pace
week.
Ourselves.
That's it.
Yeah, and I want to add that the one thing that I really enjoyed about Thursday Night Football is you guys got to do Thursday night, so I actually got to see you on Thursday night.
Yeah, that was that just came out today too. CBS and NBC are going to share Thursday Night Football this year.
So you'll do half?
We'll do half, and they'll do half.
That's good. NFL Network, I want to tell you, they decided they wanted to get out of the TV business.
Well, that's a whole other subject. When you say you can say certain things. I like my paychecks.
Yeah.
So
you respect your coach. I get you.
As Bill Parcells would say to me as I was walking off the field after an interception, when he was in like a moment, he didn't know what to say. He'd take his headset off and he'd go, "Sims, come here. Can you?" And I'll, of course, phrase it differently.
Yes.
Are you watching the same game I'm watching? And I just go, "Oh, that's a good one, Bill." And I just get away from him. But I mean, the things he would say to me. Can you imagine coaches saying that to their quarterbacks now?
Yeah.
Oh, he just would kill me.
That's a great line. Are you in the
Are you watching? Hey, Sim, go tell all those fat, this and this lineman. Tell that stupid this. Wow, Bill, this is really refreshing here. I feel so confident after this timeout. Oh, my gosh. But that's how he coached.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
We'll look forward on
All
Sunday.
right.
Enjoy the week, though. That's the main thing. You're saying we're anticipating. We want the game to get here, but enjoy, as Peyton is saying, enjoy the moment.
But enjoy the process. I get to go watch both teams practice, which is just, it's cheating. It's so much fun because practice tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Well, call us and tell us.
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay.
That's right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Text us.
Yeah, just go, man, you're not going to believe this end around. It's just gone. Phil Simms, all-timer. How's that for all-timer?
Yeah.
Had the greatest half. He was the greatest half a quarterback. Papa John's. You've heard of Papa John's. A guy we know owns a number of them. If you act today, and I'm going to tell Phil he's got to do this, if you go online and text Broncos 18, you get 2 pizzas, 3 toppings each for $18. Does that remind you of anybody? Does it? I mean, it's a great pizza. Make your online order. Papa John's, the new papajohns.com. Phil Simms.
For our Players' Choice Pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one, I can work out like one, I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice Pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza
Better football.
at the new papajohns.com. For our Players' Choice
Lack of
Pizzas.
intimacy at home starting to affect your performance on the course. There are many factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol that may be contributing to your erectile dysfunction. Get back in the game with one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, offering same-day solutions for all erectile dysfunction and premature issues. And you get to try the medications containing FDA ingredients right in their office. Let the providers at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic help you get your confidence back. And be sure to ask about the $99 limited time special. Call today.
Moscone Convention Center, and both Mark and I have talked about. It's a great atmosphere for a Monday. Monday's usually dead, and we thank Phil Simms. For people in Denver who don't like him, if you spent time with him, you would like him. You may not agree with all the stuff he says, but he and Jim Nance do a great job. Speaking of great job, we have a segment that we love, and that's Madison's Mailbag. And with us out here, Madison Faulkner has come out here with her social media and with her mailbag. What do you got for Mark Kiszla?
So the first question today is from E. Stekis, and he wants to know, so the ratings for the Pro Bowl were down again this year, and between that and all the players that chose to skip the game, should the NFL just decide to end it?
Well, I'll take that first. I'm going to put this, and I hope people take this the right way. And Mark's heard me say this before about golf tournaments in January. It's my weather porn. I watch it. And
You watch to see Hawaii.
I watch to see palm trees.
How did you feel about San Diego getting drowned this weekend?
Yeah, but I enjoy just the atmosphere. And the ratings may have gone down, but they have still better than higher than college basketball, NBA, that people want to watch anything involving the NFL. And so it gives them, the week off between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, and they enjoy seeing the stars. And what you didn't see last night is they had Odell Beckham Jr. playing quarterback one play. They had centers taking snaps.
Richard Sherman ran a reverse. That was
so
the best.
Maybe that's what the Super Bowl should be.
Okay, but before we get to the next question, I'll just add real quickly. I think picking up sides, I get that in the playground sense of it. Go back to the NFC versus AFC, please, because then I don't know who's on whose side. I'm too dumb to sort it out.
Good point. Yeah.
All right, and so our next question is from Colorado Sports Takes, and they want to know, will the Broncos defense go down as one of the top 5 greatest ever if they hold Cam and company to under 20 and the Broncos win?
I think Phil Simms just told us that, or that the first team to 20 wins, and this is a Denver team defined by its defense. So if Denver wins this game 20-16 and Cam Newton's the MVP and the rising star and the new face of the NFL, yes, I'm not saying they'll be the 85 Bears, but they'll be in the conversation.
And I would just add to that will make 12 games, I think, that they will have won this year by 7 or fewer points. And that's an incredible accomplishment. We talk about offenses that win by double digits, whatever. If you can win that many close games with your defense having such an influence in most of them, if not all of them, yes, I would say you put it up there in the top 5 or 6 of all time and surpassing the Orange Crush.
Very nice. And then we have just one last tweet, and it's talking about Kubiak's
Well, we have a lot more
plan.
tweets, but one last
We
one
do,
that
that
you
we
chose
picked today, yes. Should the Broncos throw more passes to the running backs out of the backfield?
Did somebody set this up on a tee for Woody? I have nothing to say. You finish this one, Woody.
C.J. Anderson. I'm not, after what I've seen, I'm not so persuaded that I think that Ronnie Hillman's the guy out of the backfield. I think he's a stretch play kind of guy to get him to the corner. But C.J. Anderson, I would like to see them throw to him 7 or 8 times, maybe 9 times in the game, because I think that diffuses a lot of the linebackers participating in the pass rush. And it's underneath, and C.J. Anderson, usually a reliable receiver. He dropped one a couple of weeks ago, but he's a guy through his short career that does catch passes. So I hope they do that. So yeah, that's why he's saying it. That would be not a major part. That would be a good part of my game plan. Thank you, Madison.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about a new sponsor during Super Bowl week. One of my favorite places in Colorado, and it would be yours. And this is a little funky now, Bud's Burger Bar in Sedalia. Do you ever go down Santa Fe?
Yes, I do.
Well, Bud's
I
is
know
in
exactly
Sedalia, and it is, and you hear a lot of lies about we're number one by Westward or whatever else. If you look at every major publication or TV show that is on the Food Network, the number one burger in Colorado in every one of those is Bud's Burger Bar in Sedalia. They have drinks, they have burgers, they have no fries. They want you to come there, and we've had out here the In-N-Out Burger. And I will tell you, the In-N-Out Burger can't touch the cheeseburger at Bud's Burger Bar in Sedalia. We are at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. Tonight is media night. Kiz is on the way there as soon as we get through with this today. And
we're going to 4 on the floor.
All right, start it out for me.
If Kubiak wins this Super Bowl, does he finally emerge from the shadow of John Elway?
That's what I wrote on Sunday, that I think he will. He has lived in John Elway's shadow from the day that they emerged I went past it a couple of days ago. 58th and what was then called the Valley Highway. I-25, that's where the old camp was for the Broncos, their training, all their headquarters and everything. And I looked over there, and I was thinking about that. I remember John Elway and Gary Kubiak coming out. Gary Kubiak had come to camp. Carl Mecklenburg, he told me at one point, they thought he was going to compete with Steve Berg and possibly be a quarterback during the year. He actually started. Gary Kubiak started one game when both quarterbacks were hurt. He started one game as a rookie and won it.
I forgot that.
And it was against Seattle, I think, who they played in the playoffs that year. But Gary Kubiak, from the moment he emerged from the locker room, was in the shadow of John Elway, and he was for 9 years. Then when he came back, he was in the shadow of Mike Shanahan and John Elway. When he came back now, he's in the shadow of Peyton Manning and Wade Phillips, and John Elway is still the guy casting the shower. I think if he wins, people thought that he underachieved at Houston the last 2 or 3 years he was there. I think he becomes his man. He already got 3 championships as an assistant coach in San Francisco and with the Broncos, but I think this is important to him to be Gary Kubiak, the man.
Okay, and I think that's interesting because if you go back to John Fox, and it extends now to Gary Kubiak, John Elway and Peyton Manning get the credit. And this year, Von Miller in the defense gets the credit. This coach, Gary Kubiak, and certainly John Fox, got the blame. But if Kubiak negotiates the quarterback situation and everything else he's gone through this season and gets a Super Bowl, then he will get a large share of the credit, as he should.
Well, when you're participating in your 8th Super Bowl, and you will have won 4 rings. That's a hell of an accomplishment for anybody.
The NFL's head of officiating, Mr. Blandino, says that the rules regarding completed pass currently are the way they should be. Do you agree with that?
No. I don't. Dean Blandino has defended referees all year long. He's the vice president in charge of officiating. It's still not certain to me. If I've watched this game for 50 years and I can't figure out what is a catch and what is not a catch, I think I at least am smart enough to know what a catch is. You and I have talked about it, that I think it should go to the college rule. 1 foot in bounds. If you catch the ball and you land or do something common in the game, it's a catch.
I would agree with you. I think the rules for the NFL in general and the catch specifically have gotten too complicated.
What's the next one?
Donald Trump makes an appearance on this show. Donald Trump says he's pulling for the Broncos because he knows and likes Peyton Manning. Do you think Hillary Clinton likes the Broncos also?
I don't think Hillary Clinton's going to give you an opinion one way or the other, because that's kind of what she is. We're not going to go very far into politics, but Peyton Manning and John Elway and Pat Bowlen and the hierarchy of the Denver Broncos has always been Republican. And
correct.
So, as a result of that, I could see Donald Trump and other Republican candidates, and you go, well, I don't like that. Well, I don't care whether you like it or not. I'm just telling you the truth. That Peyton Manning and his family donate to Republican causes. John Elway always has. John was going to run as governor of Colorado on the Republican ticket. So it's a Republican kind of team, whether you like them. Probably not all the players, but the hierarchy is.
I'll answer this question with a very brief question. If you gave Hillary Clinton an orange pantsuit, would she wear it? I don't know. Last question. This one I'm delighted with. Are you happy that the great Scott won the MVP award of the NHL All-Star Game, and has the NHL discovered something?
I thought it was one of the great sports stories of the century. Yeah. And the century's not that long, but it's one of the great sports stories of the last century and this century. Not only was he the write-in candidate that was kind of punking the whole NHL by fans, a guy who was then traded to Montreal and sent to the minors. The only reason why the deal was made was to get him out of Phoenix, get him out of the All-Star game. He not only scores 2 goals, kind of creates a fake fight. He's the most entertaining thing at the All-Star game. And then he gets, despite not being a candidate for the most valuable player, he gets in enough write-in votes from the media and NHL teams, including teams that had guys that were candidates. Give you Phoenix voted for him for most valuable player. I thought it was one of the great stories of the world.
Two things. The Scott story allowed the NHL to steal some of the thunder from the NFL on Pro Bowl day. And how often does the NHL ever take any of the NFL's thunder? And second of all, Scott's presence infused that game with enthusiasm, passion, and interest by other players, the star players, that the Pro Bowl simply did not have. He made that game because he was thrilled to be there with his heroes, and his heroes were thrilled to make him look good.
Hoisted them above their heads.
Yeah.
He makes $575,000. He got $90,000 for that, and that was more meaningful to him than the players making $5-10 million a year. This segment brought to you by Hacienda Colorado, Colorado's #1 Mexican restaurant. It's above the crowd, if you will. They have great entrees there. I love the appetizers. I was there on Friday night. I think it's a fantastic restaurant. There are haciendas around town. I invite you to go to Hacienda and try it once. You'll be a regular customer at Hacienda. Let's go to the Pick 6 to end the day.
Well, I'm headed to Media Tonight, or the Media Primetime Extravaganza, in a couple minutes here. So this is our Pick 6. Give me the 6 Broncos. that will garner the most media attention both tonight and throughout this week. And you cannot use Peyton Manning because that would be cheating.
Yeah, because that would be number one on everybody. I'm going to give you a sentence with each one of them. Aqib Talib is really an interesting guy, and he'll always do something that's not quite in the norm.
Yes.
Maybe he'll stick a finger in a media guy's eye.
Oh.
But I enjoy talking to Aqib. I think he'll say something this week that will get people stirring. Number 5, T.J. Ward is another one. He's another guy. I like talking to T.J. I think he's going to say, what Cam Newton? He's going to say Fig Newton, or he's going to do something. Isaac Newton, he will do something. Number 4 would be DeMarcus Ware. I think people want to talk to DeMarcus Ware because he's never been in a Super Bowl. He was an All-Pro for so many years. His back has been hurt the last couple of years. He's been in and out of the lineup. I think he's going to, and he's very thoughtful in his answers. Number 3, C.J. Anderson. I think he's going to be. You go, C.J. Anderson. C.J. is from right here. He's from Hayward. He is right around here. He grew up around here. He's got a good story to tell about his background out of high school and through junior college and going to Cal and being a backup at Cal, being a free agent, becoming a star. Tom Brady telling him, proud of what you've done and you'll be big. So it's C.J. Anderson. Number 2, Demaryius Thomas. I'm already seeing the stories, pictures of him and his mother talking about actually prison was an easier life for her because her whole day was set up. Demaryius going to be asked about that all week. And number 1, Von Miller, because he is the number 2 draft choice. The same year Cam Newton was number 1. And he's going to be sort of the story, the go-to story for everybody because of his chicken coops in Texas and his problems with his drug suspension and becoming one of the top 3 or 4 defensive players in the league.
Interesting to me, you picked 4 defensive guys and 2 offensive guys, and that's because the defense defines the personality of this team. My top 6. My number 6 is a sleeper. I'm not sure he'll be number 6, but he should be. Antonio Smith is the sage quote machine on that defense, and if you're a smart media person, you'll go talk to him. Number 5, I'm going with John Elway, the architect. Phil Simms just mentioned to us, think about this. They got blown out against Seattle, and within 2 years, he completely reshaped the personality of this team, made it a tough team, and he is the Denver Broncos. Number 4, I'll go with your choice of Aqib Talib, because you never know what Talib is going to do. Number 3 is Demaryius Thomas. As you mentioned, he has a good personal story, and he's as close to a superstar at the peak of his game that this offensive Broncos team has. Number 2 is Chris Harris Jr. I put him on there instead of T.J. Ward, but the secondary is the heart and soul and the mouth of this defense. But number 1 is Von Miller. As I've suggested, I want to see him dance. I want to see him dance versus Cam Newton, and my money would be on Von Miller in a dancing contest.
Mark Kiszla, he's off to media night, and you'll read him tomorrow in the Denver Post. He has joined me for this hour and will be with us throughout the week, and we hope you will be. And we're going to take a break for a half hour. We'll come back and devote that period of time to talking about the scene, the environment. We'll have guests. We'll have more talks with people like Phil Simms, people greater than Phil Simms.
Oh, that's not fair.
Well, some guys are half good and other guys are fully good. So stick with us. We will return in a half hour on the sports show. But first, this segment brought to you by New York Daily News, and we invite you to stay tuned for the news update, and we'll have more from San Francisco. Live from San Francisco in the Moscone Convention Center. The last time I was here was for a Democratic National Convention probably 25 years ago. And joining us, someone who has spent a lot of time in the Bay Area and I have incredible respect for her on the sports show, Amy Trask, who was, I believe, other than an owner, because there have been women owners in the league, you were the highest ranking executive for the longest time in the NFL as CEO of the Oakland Raiders. And you and I were talking about being in the press box. Let's start with that. We'll go through all the things you're doing now, which is incredible. I mean, you're on like 15 different shows. I see you on that other pregame show, for instance, and you are doing a lot of radio and television. And let's talk about how you're enjoying this week from this perspective.
It's entirely different. If you had asked me the moment after I resigned my position at the Raiders whether I would ever be on TV, I would have said you are absolutely, positively, unequivocally insane. There is no chance whatsoever I will ever be on television. And here I am in my third season with CBS Sports.
And doing a great job, because I've always been honest. I've been doing this for 50 years. I get tired of seeing the same people on the network I work for, ESPN. You get sort of the same, this is not a word, monotonic kind of Tom Jackson, who I wrote a book with. He does Tom Jackson. And then you go to CBS and the main show, if you will, it's James Brown, and you hear the same sort of voices all the time. So it's interesting to get a different perspective. Am I making sense with that?
You're making absolute sense, and I think we each bring our unique perspective to the show. And so I'm on some shows with some former athletes, and they bring the perspective of a former athlete. And, coaches, when we have segments with Coach Cower, he brings a coaching perspective, and I share a business perspective. So it's interesting and it's fun that when an issue arises, we all analyze it and understand it and articulate our thoughts about it entirely differently.
And again, as you said, enjoying the Super Bowl now, not from an ownership and executive level, but looking at it from the other side.
Sure.
What has that, if you went back into part ownership or CEO of another team, do you think you would approach it differently as a result of being on this side? Or because
that's an interesting question.
It, the Oakland Raiders were a guarded franchise. Is that a fair way to put it?
Well, it's fair. I will say that I was, and you knew this from having interacted with me over the course of my career, I was very, very careful when I spoke while I was with the team. I watched every word, not in an effort to be guarded, but because I realized that anything I said was a reflection not only on me, it was a reflection on Al Davis, it was a reflection on the Raider organization, and it was a reflection on the National Football League. So when I was careful in choosing my words and when I was judicious in the topics I discussed, it was because I respected the fact that I was representing others and other entities when I spoke. Now I represent myself, and certainly CBS, and I try not to violate too many FCC rules when I speak, but that's hard. But I'm a lot more relaxed now.
That's the reason why I asked the question. Part of it was that I've talked to players in the past week who said, well, gee, now I'm seeing it from the other side. Maybe I have a better feel for what maybe if I had done it over again as a player, I might have approached it differently.
Well, I think that to the extent there are things that I would have done differently, and there are plenty, or things I would do differently the next time, and there are plenty, I would have to be in an ownership position to effectuate that. Because when you're not an owner, ultimately you are running the business at the behest of someone who's ultimately the decision maker.
I loved dealing with from the 70s. I went to Denver in 1974 from Memphis. I covered the New Orleans Saints in the South when Archie Manning came in the league. So I've been around it a long time. I enjoyed my relationship with Al Locasala and Al Davis better than anybody in the league, and it was my worst relationship because they had a feeling at that time, and it changed over the years. It was a very small front office for a lot of years.
Right.
And they kind of thought that when I'd come out to, John Madden and I became very good friends kind of behind the scenes because he had a great friend named Bob King who was in the NBA that worked with him at San Diego State. So John and I became friends, but we had to kind of be secret friends. And it wasn't like he was feeding me information. He would just be my friend without telling the two Owls with the Oakland Raiders. But I loved my relationship with him because it was fun. I two bigger than life characters, even though one of them was rather short. And I must tell you a story. The last time I saw Al, I'm standing outside of what I call Oakland Alameda Coliseum, and I'm just standing here before the game, enjoying talking to the people and stuff. And Al's limousine pulls up, and he gets out. And this is at an advanced age. He died later, and he came out and he looked at me and he smiled. And he said, "I can only say one half of the word." He said, "Woody, you always were and you still are an ass."
Well, Al was certainly honest.
And I laughed.
That's a great
and
story.
So when people say to me, "Well, how will you remember Al?" I said, to the very end in our relationship, I said, there was a little bit of smirk there, like.
And he said that in fun, I'm sure.
You
know, you said one thing I never did my entire career is I never kept any relationships like that secret. You mentioned your relationship with Madden. You know, from my perspective, the person who was more concerned with secrecy was Al Locasal, much more so than Al Davis. It really came from Al Locasal, and there were times I would do things with the media without regard to what Al Locasal's concerns were, and if he wanted to be bothered, he could be bothered. But I felt that most of it came from him, not from Al Davis.
Can you stick with us for a moment?
That would be up to Danielle.
We'll do 5 more minutes, if that's okay. Let me take a short break. This will only take 30 seconds. So let me tell you about New York Daily News. And I'm talking about deli. New York Deli News is Denver's genuine New York deli. When I go in there, my friends Al and Tori run it, and they'll bring me a corned beef sandwich that's from New York City, and they'll say, "Do you want anything else?" And I go, "Yes, a loaf of bread and 6 friends." Because if you've ever been to a genuine New York deli, that is the biggest sandwich in the whole world. You get your money's worth. You go in and visit my friends Al and Tori Belsky at the New York Daily News, off I-25 on Hamden. That is genuinely, and I lived in New York for years, that is genuinely just like Carnegie Deli or some of the great delis in New York City. Why did you choose? Amy Trask is with us, former CEO of the Oakland Raiders. She's on the other pregame show. She's been an analyst for CBS Sports now 3 years, I think.
This is my 3rd year, yes.
Yeah. And you appear periodically on NFL Today. You've written stuff that I've read.
I have. I'm having a lot of fun. I've been approached several times by Sports Illustrated and by Monday Morning Quarterback.si.com as well as si.com. And I love to write. There was a period of my life before I joined the Raiders that I thought I might love to be a writer.
Yeah, I've read your stuff that's once again we use the praise, different perspective, but you have addressed issues that touch on the NFL that maybe you couldn't have addressed when you were actually working for the Raiders.
That's fair.
And you've given us, as I said, a viewpoint that we don't normally get. We either get a coaches or a player or a journalist or a broadcaster or whatever, and it's not like you're violating any trust. You just say, here's my feeling about replay or
right, and it's not that I would never violate a confidence that. Well, without getting into that, I'm careful about what I say in that regard. But it's not that I couldn't or didn't want to talk about some of these things while I was with the club. I didn't have the time. How would I have had the time while with the organization to sit down and try to write? But you're right, I was judicious about what I said while there.
Do you think that given your role, and I said it earlier and I hope I was proper, that you were the highest executive authority in the NFL, the first and the highest. There had been Georgia Frontiere, who owned a team.
Right.
We see in the Tennessee Titans that one of the daughters is
the 2 daughters, right?
Yeah.
One's running it, you're right.
So
too.
we've seen that in Chicago with the Bears, but we've never seen a CEO, and you worked your way up. It was not, we've just seen the NFL add a woman assistant coach. And I don't want to sit here, because we're going to have the assistant coach who joined one of its teams this year that I talked to when she was working with players during the offseason. So, the idea of women now own the world.
I don't know about that, but
it should. But have you thought that what you need to do is tell your story for younger women?
Well,
I'm sorry, that's a long question, but don't you think it'd be helpful to younger women that you paved a lot of the way there are women broadcasters like Leslie Visser, who I've known forever, who paved the way in broadcasting for women.
And if I may, before we're done, share with you that Leslie Visser has been nothing short of stupendously supportive and encouraging of me my entire career. It wasn't long after I joined the Raiders that Al allowed me to start invited me to start traveling on road trips with the team, which was unheard of. The only women that had ever traveled with a team on the road prior to that were the wives of owners or the wives of coaches. And on one of my first road games in Philadelphia, all of a sudden there's a voice in my ear and someone says, "I'm so thrilled you're doing what you're doing, and if I may ever help you, you call on me." And as this person walked away, I turned around and I saw that it was Leslie Visser. And all I could think was, how the hell does Leslie Visser know who I am? She's tremendous. She's really magnificent.
And she got to where she was because she did have that knowledge and understanding.
I know we're about to end here. I'm in the process of writing a book. It's coming out soon, and I address these issues in it. And I talk about the fact that at the end of the day, people ask me all the time, were you tested because you were a woman? Well, look, we're all tested at times. And what's the best thing to do when you're tested? Pass the test. So I felt my energy was best spent doing my job and not worrying about other issues.
So the book, your career in broadcasting, writing, speaking, what's the challenge that's next?
The fun is that I don't know. And I'm not going to decide, and I'm having a lot of fun doing what I'm doing.
Thank you. You said before we went on the air, and it's meaningful, the Oakland Raiders and the Denver Broncos had, I won't call it unique, but it was one of the strongest rivalries.
It sure was.
Because it dated back to the AFL, and because of the over the years, the tough games, playoff games, AFC championship that was in dispute led to the instant replay. And you said, well, I never thought you'd be sitting here. I've liked that we've bridged that gap.
I have too, and I thank you for having me. And it wasn't long ago, I guess, that we were sitting and staring at one another across that press box.
Yeah, Al used to sit in the press box behind
because
the
there
media.
were no suites then, and so we sat, and Al was right in the middle of the media, and I would walk over to him repeatedly throughout the game, and I would say, you might want to lower your voice a little because everyone can hear every word you're saying, and it didn't help. He kept his voice as loud as it was.
Amy, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll continue watching continued success in
Thank
all
you
your
very
careers.
much.
Yeah, we'll be back on the sports show. We continue from the convention center, the media center in San Francisco, as I tell you about Papa John's. The day after every Avalanche win, 50% off if you go online, papajohns.com, the new papajohns.com, and you get online orders. If you put in the words Avalanche, you get 50% off. We'll be back in a moment.
For our Players' Choice Pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one. I can work out like one. I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice Pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At the new papajohns.com.
But can I give you, Woody Paige, with the sports show, Mark Kiszla and everyone else here has gone off to print night and media night, and I'm going to join them. So we're going to do a few more minutes, and let me run through some of our sponsors this week and some of what's going on here. We're really excited, as I've mentioned. New York Daily News has joined us, my good friends Alan Torrey, and if you are looking for the best in deli food, and I say that, it's not just delicatessen food. They have got everything. I have tried practically everything on the menu, from the bacon and eggs in the morning to spaghetti to lasagna to their desserts to their great sandwiches to their matzo ball soup. I don't think there's anything I haven't had on the menu, and there's nothing on the menu I haven't enjoyed, and I enjoy my time there, and you will too. Papa John's is a proud sponsor of our program, and we're proud to have them with us. And remember that after they win, if they win on the Super Bowl on Monday, you'll get 50% off Papa John's online orders. Bud's Bar in Sedalia, absolutely a great atmosphere. It is a small bar restaurant just off Santa Fe, the old Santa Fe Trail that would go from north all the way down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it is the old road from Denver to Castle Rock. Invite you to stop in Sedalia. I'm not going to give you an address because when you turn into Sedalia, you'll see it right there. Voted by every national magazine, publication, TV show, the best burger in Colorado. If you go there, you'll understand. And there's no fries. And you go, well, I don't want fries. Well, I want fries. Well, they have chips, because you don't want to take anything away from your experience of being at Bud's Bar and trying the burger. Citywide Banks, who's been a sponsor of ours for over a year now, Colorado-owned, Colorado-focused, family-owned, charity-focused Citywide Banks. Denver Mattress is one of our title sponsors, and I've worked with Denver Mattress for years with a charity I do. They, once again, a Colorado business that cares about you, cares about making sure your sleep experience every night is one of the best of your life. Elway's Steakhouse, the best in Denver, Colorado. And if you go there once, you have been there 100 times, because what John Elway does with the Denver Broncos and what Tim Schmidt does in the restaurant business, they've combined to create with Elway's Restaurant. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, a good sponsor for quite a while. If you're having sexual problems, if you're having health problems, it is Colorado's #1 clinic for men, specifically for men. Siltahar Motors, and I went out and spent time with the guys out there, PT, and the guys, not only Fords, Lincolns, Maseratis, Aston Martins, Jaguars. You could say it 3 different ways. If you're looking for a friendly, fun dealership where they don't think that car purchasing has to be a struggle, I invite you to go out to Siltahar Ford. Kaufman Big and Men's Shop. And I'm wearing one of their shirts today, and I went out on Saturday, and they asked me to wear some of their shirts during the week. And within 5 minutes, whether you like the shirt or not, I love this shirt. It feels good. If you are a big man, a tall man, you're looking for clothing for you with great service, with people that have been in the business 30 and 40 years that know how to dress you, that would be Kaufman's Big and Tall Shop. That's on South Broadway. Those will be sponsors we'll be working with during the course of the week, and we appreciate their involvement because it allows us to be in this room. I'm going to give you a rundown. Then we'll take a break for a minute, but I'm going to give you a rundown of kind of what the atmosphere is here in San Francisco. It's really, let's start with kind of the security measures. A block around this convention center, San Francisco, because of what's happened in the world, has really become security conscious. It's one of the biggest events in the world. So there are security measures, police officers. It is a safe environment. If you're bringing your family to San Francisco, if you're coming out here, know that you'll have a great visit downtown. What do they have? They have the NFL experience. They have a shop that's right over here. Dan, can you get a picture of can you guys show the shop areas? You can't really see it through the glass, but right there, you come in and be a part of it's like the world's gigantic mall of NFL stuff. Now, in this room, this is where Media Row is. This is where NFL Network, CBS, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Sirius Radio, and 100 radio stations are broadcasting about the game. There's, I would say, probably 300 television sets in here keeping you up to date about the game during the course of the day. Outside and across the street is the NFL experience that allows you to see how the balls are inflated. You can, for the kids, there are games and rides, and there are NFL interaction type things. The street is going to become, and has become, Super City. There will be concerts every night. There will be excitement. There's all sorts of parties going on, from everything from the Playboy Club to the ESPN, the network I work for. I'm doing Around the Horn on ESPN out here. We are broadcasting live on the Denver Post. We will be having guests during the course of the week. We will have probably more than 100 guests. We'll be doing our sports show with opinions and arguments between me and Mark Kiszla. We'll be joined by members of the Denver Post will give you the most up-to-date information from all the training camps. So we hope during the course of the week you will join us. We will be on from 3 until 4 Denver time, and then we will come back and do 2 hours of guests. And so we hope you'll spend your afternoons with us or do it on demand. DenverPost.com, go to WoodyPage.com, go to Facebook, our Facebook page, the sports page. Go. You can tweet us if you have questions or subjects at the sports show. You can go to our iTunes podcast. You can go to WoodyPage.com. You can go to the DPTV on the Denver Post website and go to the sports show. And we'll be with you every day out here. So we hope you'll join us. And that's our first day from San Francisco. Have a great evening. Enjoy everything that's a part of the Super Bowl all week long. That wraps it up for today. Have a great evening from the sports show.